ugh, that moment where you need chapstick and you don't have it. Ugh, and I'm not going all the way back upstairs. I'm gonna have loaned out quite a few of these to my neighbor. So we're working with what we got. Sources that them sounded out. Some truths in here that when I was reading it, I was like, wow. Go over was Bible resources that are going to train a little bit more the theology aspect for your children. These are going to vary in like what age you would use these. So this again would be something that if you want flip throughs, you can let me know, or YouTube that, and you can probably look at those. Also click the links I have below, or that'll be in my Amazon shop, and then you'll be able to click on those and go see maybe some of the images that the publisher has put, or even the descriptions, author's notes, that kind of thing. So one of the great ways to teach your children theology, right, basic understanding, is going to be the New City Catechism. So there are different catechisms, and I would say the New City Catechism is popular. This one is for kids, and so it was very affordable. So you can see like part 1 is on God, creation, and fall, and then the law. So it's just a very basic format. You have your question, your answer. And so it's going to work like this. So like question number 2 is, what is God? And so you would say to your child, what is God? And then your child would typically repeat that, what is God? And then you would say, go through the answer, God is the creator of everyone and everything. Then your child would repeat that, God is the creator of everyone and everything. And so what you're doing is they're not only learning the theology, what does the church believe based on what does the Bible teach us? You get a clear explanation, and I find this to be helpful even if you don't directly know how to answer some of these questions. Can anyone keep the law of God perfectly? You may go, well, maybe you don't know that answer, right? And so this is really great, where a lot of parents have learned as well. And so not only is your child getting a just clear cut, what is the answer to these questions, the theology, what does the Bible say about these things, but because they're repeating these, they're going to get them in their head, and they're going to ultimately plant those seeds, and they're going to get a true foundation. And so I wish I had done this when I was a kid. And so clearly as a Bible student, prior to having kids, I learned so much from catechism. So this is going to be in no particular order, just so you know. I love these first Bible basic books. So these are the baby believer primers that will help teach your children the central tenets of the Christian faith that they may never know a day apart from the Lord. You can see the different ones she has. This is a counting primer, so it kind of one God, and then of course we have I am. You have your Bible verse. Let's do another one. Okay, if you go to number 3 persons of the Trinity, Father, Son, Holy Spirit. And then of course you have a quote, this time from St. Augustine, to kind of explain that. And so a lot of these primers are going to be, catechism based. They're going to be conveying those theological truths to your children. And of course, compared to like the New City Catechism, this one would be good for a young child, whereas this would probably be more for like a upper elementary child or a lower elementary, depending on your child. So this is another series. This is the Big Theology for Little Hearts. This is the God one that I got, and I love this one as well. The first page, Creator, and then it will tell us, let's see, all that you see and do not see was created by God. So again, just giving you the very simple truth there, packed. King, God is the ruler over, sorry, it's hard to read backwards, over all things. I can read, it's just hard when it's backwards. And we'll do one more. Holy, God is perfectly unique and set apart from everyone and everything. And so this is a lot of fun. I really enjoy this. This one I would say is more, talking about God, giving you kind of a descriptive word about him. Okay, this one I have is Tell Me About Prayer. I bought this one on a whim as well. They have a whole bunch more, if it will focus, whole bunch more. And I'm pretty sure I got this from thrift books, and it was a great deal. And then it also came with a CD, and the CD is upstairs. So it says, train up a child in the way he should go, and when he is old, he will not depart from it. And of course, it's Proverbs 22:6. So it's an interactive, fun-filled series that uses a train locomotive theme as a method for teaching kids core Christian beliefs and principles. So again, maybe you want to try this, where it's a little bit more straight to the point, or maybe your child needs something a little bit more interactive. And like I said, my kids love the CD that this came with. But there's baptism, Bible, church, faith, grace, praise and worship, salvation, and then of course the prayer one that I bought. We just went through a season where my son was really curious about prayer and wanted to know more, and it was hard for me to explain prayer in a way he would understand it, So just kind of a little bit showing. It's a little bit, like busy, I guess. I don't know, the imaging and the colors, the different fonts. So this one is going to be The Kingdom of God. It's a rhyming board book, and it is from the Lithos Kids. So I ordered this. So this would be the same as the Bible Storybook Company, and we love this. I love the writing. I love the pictures. They're just wonderful. So I will hold it up so you can pause it, and you can read just a couple of the pages. And you can see how it is. And so we've loved that one. I love every time my children bring me that one to read. So these are from the Little Blessings. You can tell by the images, they have very distinct. So why is there a cross, and who is Jesus? And so are these books perfect in how they explain it? No, I would say no. But I do think that they have benefits from them, and my children have learned stuff from them. So you can kind of like pause it and then just kind of read it and kind of see how they're explaining. So it still is going to have kind of that story, kind of, stanza type of writing that they do, where, some of the words kind of rhyme. And so I think anytime you do that, you're going to kind of take away from the message. Now, this one is going to be When I Pray for You. Okay, and we've enjoyed this one as well. Again, it's just building on that concept of prayer. The pictures are colorful, and they are fun. Any of the God Gave Us series are going to be wonderful, and I have more coming up to show you, but we love the God Gave Us Heaven, God Gave Us Family. Again, just kind of exploring some of these very broad concepts like heaven, or even just family, where sometimes we forget to kind of explain certain things about families, like why do some families not have any kids? Why do some families have only one kid? Why do some families, have grandmas and grandpas that live with them, and things like that? And so some of these concepts, are, I think, a little bit better when we can explain them with a biblical footprint. So this one is Dr. Craig's What is God Like? God is Three Persons. And so they kind of come from it during the Christmas time. I would say this one, it did do a good job. It did cover some of these topics. Again, just another way of explaining the Trinity is a very complex and abstract concept, even for Christians who are very seasoned. And so with children, you can imagine it's even more complex. Okay, so this one is Little Blessings as well, Is God Always With Me? And so this was really good when my son, he just went through a lot where it was like, everything became kind of a fear, an anxiety type of thing. And so obviously a helpful book I bought, and I think it explained it very well, and we really enjoyed it. So again, you can kind of see, you can pause it and kind of read that. I'll show a couple pages. So that was a really good one as well. The next one we have, I have not started, but somebody recommended this one, and it's What Would Jesus Do in His Steps? Now it's retold for children. And so, we're just getting to that age where my older son, is able to kind of understand a little bit more explanation. And so if something happens and I'm able to, kind of start that conversation, well, what would Jesus do? So you can see it does have colorful images, a little bit of context. So again, this is one that I'll just have to come back and say when we read it. I don't know if we're going to get to it before I do like our midway update on our curriculum for our pre-kinder year, but maybe at the end of the year. So at the end of our pre-kinder curriculum, which would be more towards the spring. So this one I actually picked up at Hobby Lobby, just off the whim, Bible questions and answers for kids. So my son is in the stage where he's asking some of these odd questions, like, did Jesus, well, that's not odd, but did Jesus have brothers and sisters, right? Let me see if we have another one. Why did Jesus have to die to forgive us? If Jesus came to save the world, why is it such a mess? Why did Jesus choose Judas to be a disciple? If I do the same sin often, will God stop forgiving me? So some of these, when I flipped through it, it was like, okay, that, like, you know, does God laugh? Or things like that. And you're just like, those 4-year-old questions where you're like, how do I answer this? And so, you know, do angels protect us? So just kind of like some of those questions that your kids might ask. And it's not necessarily that you don't know the answer. It's more or less that you don't know how to answer it for them. And then it does kind of have like a quiz section down here. And so it does kind of have that application, especially for older kids. Now, again, my son is 4.5, almost 5. This is definitely, you know, when I die, do I become an angel? Like, this is definitely for kids who really have a lot of these kind of questions. Maybe you're young to older elementary, but that's a great thing, is this will definitely be something that we can continue to have on our shelf. Okay, so this one, Nancy Guthrie, I don't know if I pronounced that right, but I have actually really enjoyed her books. And so what every child should know about prayer. So she does kind of have like a standard format of how she does it. We can pray about everything. So you can see I bought this when my son was really interested in knowing about prayer. There's a question and there's a Bible verse. The next one, God invites us to pray to him as our Father, a question and a Bible verse format. But I really liked how she just like answers these topics. She includes a lot of different, well, I guess they're like statements or questions. And I really like how she answers things. There are colorful images in there. And again, you could take this, you know, one at a time if you want. So that one's a lot of fun. And then we have these. So these I found, I believe, on Christian Book. And so these are actually kind of like readers. I have 2 level 1s and then I have 2 level 2s. And so I'm sure there's more, but these are the ones I have. So God always cares. What is faith? God made you special. And then a child's book of manners. And so what's nice about these is, of course, they're adorable. The text is little, and you know, it's going to be on a way for your children to understand. So that was a level 2. Let's flip through a level 1. So we read through these, I think it's probably been a year now. So these are definitely ones I need to pull back out for us to go through. So yeah, so those are really cute. Okay, then I have another little blessings, and this is God loves you. So again, it has those illustrations that are very common. There's a board book, which is nice. This is the other one I have, and this is Kenneth N. Taylor. So he was the author of all of these similar books. And this one is kind of like that Nancy Guthrie one, where I really like how he describes it. So everything a child should know about God. And so you have the boy Jesus teaches grown-ups. So little section of description, a Bible verse, or not a Bible verse, I'm sorry, the verse for context where you could go and read it in the Bible, and then a question as well. Jesus chooses 12 helpers. So again, covering Bible topics, main Bible topics, but not in a storybook fashion. And the images are also very fun, very colorful. Okay, so this one is definitely one I would recommend having on your shelf. It's the Ology. So everyone recommends this one, whether you're a homeschooling parent or not. I think this is just a great one to have on your shelf. And it is gonna say, let's see, ancient truths ever new. So you're going to have a lot more text. This one, I don't know what the age recommendation is for it. I will say that I read through it with my son. It was definitely over his head, but there was enough where like he kind of understood and was asking questions. So like this one is God created everything out of nothing at all. And then, so, you know, the text is definitely for older children, but then you're going to have a couple of verses and wonderful images, and then they also have more Bible verses, and so you could really make this into a Bible study. And then I'm pretty sure in the back they have questions. Yeah. Okay. So you do have at the back of this, you have, to make this even more of a Bible study or Bible curriculum, you do have the Think Theology, Talk Theology. There is a question section, and then there's also an answer section, which is just really amazing. And so this is a deep truth simply told. You have a lot of Albert Mohler has made a comment on this. You've got Joel Beek, and then you've got so you've got some big names of people making comments on the back. And so anything by Marty is phenomenal. Is definitely, I would say, a rather trusted source. So this one is, you could read this with your children, or you could read this and then use this to kind of help educate your children. And this is called Leading Little Ones to God. I got this recommendation from Science Mama. So Angie, I will link her YouTube channel below. So I think this one used to be included in one of the Sunlight curriculums. I don't think it is anymore, but she had mentioned this, and this was before I decided, you know what, we're going to do Sunlight. And so I just got this from Thrift Books. And so like, here's part 2. God is very great. And so you can see that it's going to have quite the text. God is one God. And so you could read this, and then we have questions. Why do all things belong to him? Why do we belong to him? And then Moses told God's people of long ago, and then there's a Bible verse. There's suggested reading, there's a hymn to sing, and there's a prayer. There's also a quote, and then and then there's more questions down here, so it actually is labeled like something to talk about. And so you can see where you could really make this in and of itself a Bible curriculum as well, and this would just be a wonderful resource. Again, I'm not sure what the age would be for that, so I would just use your own discernment. You know your children better than anything. Okay, this was just one other recommendation I wanted to make. We have not started doing this, but I definitely plan to. When I first started to go down this road of homeschooling, I actually, for whatever reason, just didn't even think about like educating our children on missionaries. And I learned that very quickly through My Father's World and Sunlight, looking at their years to come, was they included a lot of missionary stories. And so now these I got from Thrift Books, and I just picked these up. These are definitely like shorter versions. I'll show you a little bit. So you do have a lot of colorful text. But there's all sorts of missionary stories out there. And as we get further in our homeschooling journey, and as my boys get a little bit older, I will, of course, show you which ones we're either doing through Sunlight or whichever ones, are recommended that I stumble upon, including missionary stories. It shows a lot of, the faith of people and what they went through. And to me, that it's always great to learn from seasoned saints, but it's also amazing to learn from missionary stories, or just people of the faith and what they went through, and how they kind of got through that. So the next thing I want to talk about before we get into more of like just the general books to maybe have on hand for holidays, or for just general stories to read with your children, is if we're all going to have to deal with these topics with our children, and dealing with them in a biblical way is key, but also it can be very hard to know how to answer these or where to start. And that's why I love books, is because some of these topics are very emotional packed. They can be opinionated. They can also, right now in our culture, it's very loud right now on these topics. And so sometimes it's just, we don't know where to start, how to start, and how to make it age appropriate. And so I love these. So this one is by Marty. So if you remember, Marty did the ology. It's buried right now. And so this one is God Made Boys and Girls. And so again, this one is helping children understand the gift of gender. So again, the culture's a little loud on this right now. And so, people are confused right now. So that might be for all ages. I don't know. So give that a try. And then God Made All of Me. And this is a book to help your children protect their bodies. This is by Justin and Lindsay Holcomb. And you can kind of see very colorful. Again, these are going to be ones that you buy when you're ready to talk about them. Okay. Topics like this, I think you do want to make sure you pick the appropriate age of how it's worded, but also like the appropriate time, but you also don't want to wait too long, especially like for protecting your children's body. So I also have this one, The Story of Me. So we are actually reading through this right now for our curriculum. This is ages 3 to 5, Babies' Bodies and a Very Good God. And so, you know, my son is kind of asking certain questions and babies and bellies and things like that. And so they have a whole series and it is age-based, which again is very helpful. So like I said, this one is ages 3 to 5. My son's right in that area. And so this would be book 1. And then you have Before I Was Born, ages 5 to 8, What's the Big Deal, 8 to 12, Facing the Facts, 12 to 16. There's also a parent's guide on how and when to tell your kids about, I won't say it just in case we have little ears listening. So this is wonderful. You know, a lot of times this question is just not addressed early on enough, and we also maybe just don't know the most appropriate way to go about that. And I didn't show you inside of it, did I? So here's kind of that general format. It does have some colorful images. It's very child friendly. Now I will say, you know, read through these first. You know, because I know that some of them are going to include maybe certain anatomical language that maybe you just don't feel comfortable talking about yet. Like I personally didn't feel like with my son in this book that I was ready to talk about anatomical words for females. You know, we're just not there yet. I don't want to bring that up yet. Now, if we have a sister, then that would obviously definitely be a topic. And that is just what me as a parent has made the discretion for. If you're like, no, I want my kids to know that there is a very clear difference. We have just skimmed it where there are girls and there are boys, and there is a difference, you know, and he understands that. Mommy is very different from daddy, brother, and him. But I wasn't ready to talk about anatomically. So use your own discretion. Now this one is Good Pictures and Bad Pictures Junior. There is another version and I think it's for older kids. I just don't know what the age is. But this is, of course, we live in a tech savvy world, and unfortunately with that, it's very easy and it takes a millisecond for your child to see something. And, you know, once, you know, you can look at the science out there. I'm not here to tell you about that. But once a child sees that stuff, it causes effects in the brain that just cannot be undone. And so this, I don't think your child is ever too early to just start reading this, and it does it in a very gentle way. And again, you can definitely just proofread this, and depending on if your child goes to daycare, if your child's home, if your child goes to therapy, if your child is having a lot of play dates, you know, then you can choose, you know, how you're going to go about this. Okay, so there's that. I highly recommend that. Okay, so we're just going to go through some of these holiday books. I plan on probably doing just a whole video in and of itself about, you know, Advent books I recommend, maybe not just Christian, but also some secular ones. And I will tell you, I have a lot of Christian books for Advent or Christmas, but there's so many wonderful Christmas books that honestly have a lot of just really good virtue and morals in them. And so I do plan on doing a video on that, of books that we get, and a lot of those, I am able to get at the library. So we will start with Advent. So this is one of the first books that I wanted to show, and this is the Remember Tree. And because we have a lot, I'm not going to go through and tell you all about them. Again, if I do a separate video, we can, but again, click on the link below or go into my Amazon store, and then you can kind of look at reviews over them and flip through them a little bit. But this one, it's a little bit hard to explain, but it's going to give you kind of like a description. So it says, I like to twinkle at a great height in the night sky, and I shine so bright. And then your child is supposed to kind of guess, well, what could that be? So then when you turn the page, oh, it's a star. And you're right, Grandma peeled the wrapping from the star. And then it goes in and says, the shepherds followed the star and they found Jesus in a manger wrapped in swaddling clothes. I fitted the star on top of the remember tree. I know what it means. It reminds us of the new star that appeared at baby Jesus's birth. Very good, Grandma said, and she squeezed me tight. So it's bringing in those biblical aspects to your Christmas tree, right? And then there's another one, so you can see like the stars up there, and then I'm going to give you another description and your child can guess it. So this one was really good. We really enjoyed that one. We got it last Christmas. Okay, then we have What is Christmas? And this one is, let's see, we really enjoyed this one. It is a board book. It's very simple, you know, and it's going to talk about, you know, if, you know, we don't do Santa Claus, but you know, your kids are obviously going to see Santa Claus and stuff, so it does kind of tie that in. Different things we do at Christmas time, but it's going to say, you know, but what is Christmas really about? Those things are nice, but Christmas is really about, and then it's going to turn our attention to that. And so this is just really good for kids, especially if your kids get really excited about presents and the food and the, you know, the decorations. It's, hey, let's rein this back in, you know, of that excitement and say, well, this is what Christmas really is about. So we have that. This one is just the story of baby Jesus, and so my friend actually gave me this when I was pregnant, and it's an Usborne picture book, and I love this one. So this is obviously just your basic story, you know, storybook of Jesus being born, and the illustrations are absolutely gorgeous, and the text is very easy. My children's love this one, so, you know, I think it's good to have one of those on hand. The Crippled Lamb by Max Lucado. This one makes me cry every single time. We read this all the time throughout the year. It doesn't even have to be just Christmas. I got this through thrift books. I mean, if you haven't read this one, you have to read this one. It is just, it'll break your heart. So I had a friend come over and I told him, you have to read this to my son. And he almost started crying. He didn't, but he almost did. And so this one is definitely one to read to your kids. And like I said, it's not necessarily a Christmas book. It's going to tie in the birth of Jesus, but oh my goodness, that is a must buy. Okay, so then we also have the Christmas love letters from God. So if you're very against the Jesus calling, which I am, then I would not recommend these. That was actually not what I was really expecting when I bought these. But I will say, you know, which this is probably controversial, but if you like that for kids, I think it's not bad. So like this one is talking about Isaiah's good news. Okay, it's very colorful. And then on the next page, it's going to have Isaiah knew the wonderful light would come, but he didn't know when or how or who the baby would be. Only God knew. So it does have some truths in there. It does have John 8:12, and then this is your love letter from God. And so you can put your child's name in there if you want. And again, it's supposedly written from God. So again, if you're very against the Jesus calling, which I am, but for a child, you know, I think it does take kind of that abstract concept of being a personal God and kind of bringing it to the child. So again, use your own discernment. This one is always a good read. Who is coming to our house? Very child-friendly, wonderful illustrations. All the animals are preparing because somebody is coming. So that one's good. And then we also have, this is the star. Okay, it's a little bit bigger, a little bit more realistic images. Okay, so I also have a God Gave Us Christmas. So again, they have so many of them. I have not read all of them, but I don't think you can go wrong with these. These are wonderful books. We have The True Story of Christmas. So again, just, you know, these are books that I typically can't get at our library, and instead of just relying on one, I don't see the problem with adding a few of these, you know, every couple years to your shelf. This is The First Night. This is a pretty popular one as well. It's very simple for kids. Beautiful illustrations. The Legend of the Candy Cane. This is a favorite of my child's. Getting a candy shop ready, and then he talks to her about candy canes, and of course he's going to tell her about the candy canes and what it means. And so taking, again, a very common symbol, if you will, of Christmas and kind of giving it the biblical backstory to it that many have forgotten. So that one is a favorite, and I do have the board book version. This one is by Sally Lloyd-Jones. This is my Merry Christmas. So again, if you are a Christian who likes to put a tree up in your house and the lights and the star and all that, sometimes we forget that we can tie that biblically, and it's not pagan. And I like this because it'll give you a way to draw it in to a biblical stance. So not that we should justify everything that we have and make it biblical, but angels sparkling in the light remind us that angels sang that night to sing to us, hooray, hooray, good news, God's son is born today, sing for joy on Christmas Day. The tree that's green when others die, tell us Jesus came and why. To give us life, and so we say this Christmas time and every day, live in us, dear Lord, we pray. And so even in the beginning, I think when they're like getting the trees and stuff, yeah, like lighting our path is how they're tying that to like the Christmas trees and stuff. So this was just kind of fun to kind of draw in, like, well, Mom, why do we have a Christmas tree? You know, tying it in a little bit. Okay, so then we'll go through some Easter or Resurrection Day books if you want to go through that, or maybe you would call it Lent. It just depends. So my kids actually really liked this series. So it's the Beginner Bible. So I believe they actually do have like a Bible for kids, which might be one that I get my son, but he just really likes the illustrations and the wording in these. They're kind of fun. So the life of Jesus, and then it gives you a Bible verse. So you can kind of see that. It is a paperback one, and I got that for Thrift Books. So we had the What is Christmas? We have What is Easter? I believe it is the same author. It is. So again, you know, taking, you know, the hiding Easter eggs and the bunnies and the chocolates, but then tying in, like, those things are fine. You can have those, but no, that's not what Christmas. It's not what Easter is actually about. And so then you're going to kind of tie in, well, what is Easter actually all about? So yes, it's okay to have those things, but let's not forget what Easter is really about. So I also have God Gave Us Easter. Again, you can't go wrong with those. And then The Donkey Who Carried a King. So definitely more lengthy. And I believe you can find this one on YouTube. I was thinking somebody read it, but I wanted a copy of my own just to have on the shelf. And then I also have the Easter Story. And this is actually a giant board book, which is crazy. So lots of really nice illustrations, but super basic text. So that's a fun read. My kids really enjoy that because it's sturdy and big. Okay, so then we are Protestant, so obviously Reformation Day is very important to us. So these are just a few books I got actually on sale, and that's, you know, we're just adding them to our shelf. We do very basic Reformation Day study here, but this one is Reformation ABC, so it's kind of going to go through the letters and then attribute a topic to it, but then, like, you know, it's going to have some heavy text there to describe it. But this is definitely a good one for as your children get older and you really want to start giving them more of the history of Reformation Day. But these are great Bible resources if you are a Protestant. And then these are this is a great series regardless. but why did Reformation happen? And this is the Who, What, Why, Danica Cooley, and I'm pretty sure they have quite a few of these. So it's definitely, you know, a lot of text, a lot of images, but this is definitely something that we will go through later on, just to give more in depth to the Reformation period. Okay, there was one more I wanted to show you. I don't actually have a ton of like Thanksgiving, we don't celebrate Halloween, but fall type of books. And so this is a pumpkin prayer and then My Happy Pumpkin. So I get a ton of books for fall or autumn and Thanksgiving. I get a ton of these from the library. And so these are definitely ones that I can probably just do a video on my favorite books that we get from the library for these. But again, that's probably just a list that I need to type up. But these are the two that I have bought, and we read them over and over, and they do tie it into a biblical concept. So it does have like a jack-o'-lantern stuff, but it does tie in a little bit of, you know, God in there. And so this one's adorable. I love this one. So, and I got those, I believe, at Hobby Lobby, but you can probably look on thrift books. Okay. So I wanted to talk about, these are just really good books that I would have on hand. The Tale of the Three Trees. This might be my favorite book ever. Like ever, you know, even as an adult. It's amazing. You should have this on your shelf. We read it all the time, at least once every 2 weeks, I would say. And so I also had my friend, when he came out, I had him read it, and this one almost got him crying as well. Not as much as The Crippled Lamb, but this one's amazing. So definitely get that, have that on your shelf. This series is, if I can figure out what it is called. These are the Tales That Tell the Truth. So it's a whole series. They have a ton. I have found some on thrift books. These, I believe I did pay full price on Amazon. But this one is The Garden, the Curtain, and the Cross. And they are colorful. The illustrations are amazing. The way the text is so packed, but it's not like overwhelming. And it's not necessarily like a storybook format, technically not. And I just highly recommend these. This is wonderful. This is my favorite. I absolutely love The Garden and the Curtain and the Cross. We will definitely be investing and buying some more of these from this series. Anytime, any place, and any prayer. Again, this was when my son was really asking a lot of questions about prayer. So again, beautiful illustrations, just very packed text, but it's not overwhelming. Okay, so that series is wonderful. Okay, so this is the Beginner's Bible series, Jesus Loves the World. So again, this is a board book. We just picked this up for one of our trips for my youngest. Images and that. So again, this is just another story that we have on hand just to give you guys ideas. I love these. These are Melissa Kruger. Wherever you go, I want you to know, and then His grace is enough, how God makes it right when we've got it wrong. So these kind of remind me of like Dr. Seuss, kind of like the not necessarily the illustrations, but just like how it's kind of whimsy and kind of the text kind of rhyming together. And I believe I got this yellow one on thrift books. The other one, I think I got it in Amazon, but I'll try linking them below. And so these are wonderful. They really are. Both of them have very strong, powerful messages in them. These are also from the Lisso's Kids, where we got The Kingdom of God, the best storybook. And these are going to be, and I think they came out with a third one, and I don't have that one. So this is Little Pilgrim's Big Journey. Believe the King's word, follow the King's path, and seek the city. So John Bunyan's Pilgrim Progress, which I think is like the second most popular Christian book after the Bible, fully illustrated and adapted for the next generation. And so my son loves this book. I mean, he not only loves the illustrations, but again, if you've ever read Pilgrim's Progress and just adapting that for children, you can imagine that it's a wonderful story that your kids can have. Need to have this on their shelf. And so there are other adaptions of children's Pilgrim's Progress, but this is the only one I have read, so I can't say by comparing it to the other ones. The bitter must come before the sweet. So this is the second one. And so this one follows, I think her name's Christina. So again, still the same illustrations. It is a little text heavy, I would say. But again, you're taking a very biblical concept and giving it that's intertwined in that story. I can't think of what that's called. Some other good stories to have on hand. Whether your children like Berenstain Bears or not, they have a lot of biblical based topics. So this one is going to be the Berenstain Bears, God loves you. The Berenstain Bears, kindness counts. Berenstain Bears, God bless our country. Berenstain Bears, Thanksgiving blessings. Do the right thing. And the golden rule. So, you know, there's even on the back, you can see there's even more. So they have a ton. I have found that they tend to talk about some of these things in a way that I would not have thought to talk about them. And so again, for us, I love teaching through books, through literature, and it can answer some of these things in maybe a way that I would not necessarily have thought how I could answer these in the best way. And so I will say Berenstain Bears tends to be pretty lengthy, but I think these are wonderful, you know. So check your library, check Amazon. Usually these are actually pretty cheap, thrift books potentially. So, and then my kids love Little Critter. So this was one of my favorite books when I was little, was just Little Critter. But this one is the Little Blessings collection. And so when I saw this, I was like, of course I have to buy it because my son loves Little Critter just like I did. But you're going to have topics that as Christians we would like to address, and we're going to bring in those biblical concepts. So you go first. It's true, being thankful, and we all need forgiveness. So those are the 4 stories in here. I am definitely going to be looking to see if they have any more Little Critters with a Christian biblical concepts in there, but these are fun. If you can find good biblical based books that have characters that your children enjoy, again, it's just that getting their attention and stuff, sometimes it does require a little bit of this to have some of those more discussions. Okay, so now I also do have love letters from God, and again, I bought both of these when I didn't realize, like, oh, they have kind of like that Jesus Calling format. But like I said, we haven't read through all of this one. It does have your little love letter from God. So again, I would just use your discernment. Do you want to put that way of thinking in your head of, like, you know, somebody's writing words out that are supposedly coming from God? Then we also have God Gave Us You. So this is in that God Gave Us series. That was a little board book. And then we also have God Bless You and Good Night. And then I also have God Bless My Boo Boo. So I think the God Bless series has quite a few in that series, I think. So my kids love the pictures. This one is like a touch and feel. And so, you know, and you can kind of see how the wording is. And then we also have the God Bless My Boo Boo. So we went through a time where, you know, we were very scared when we had boo-boos. So this one kind of talks about every type of boo-boo or sickness that your child can have. So then I have these, and these are 5-minute inspirational stories. So these were nice. So this is kind of a way where you can get, you know, it's a treasury format, so you get kind of a collection of the stories. And so you can see on the back, so it has all these individual stories, but it's in one. So that's a nice way to get some. And then, you know, if you're just really short on time and, you know, you work all day or whatever the case is, right? We have 5-minute Bible stories. And so these we have enjoyed. I mean, they are, let me see, very simple, but it does talk about, I have found that it does talk about some topics that, like, the storybook Bibles kind of just skip over, like God sends food. And then there's a prayer. There's also the verse at the bottom, for, you know, context, so you could go and read that. There's usually also a question, why weren't the Israelites happy to be free at first? So I'll show you another example. The illustrations are wonderful. So I bought this originally just to start introducing the Bible stories, Bible concepts, and it worked beautiful. It was short enough to keep my son's attention. This was also a great way we could just kind of sneak this in addition to reading one of his stories that he wanted to read at night. So just another idea, just another way to see what works for you, what works for your lifestyle, what works for your schedule, what works for your child at this current time. Okay, I feel like one last area that is important to talk about in Bible resources is the character and behavior of our children, instituting good virtues as well as morals. And so obviously nothing's going to be better than the actual Bible. But I do have just a few Bible books, books that have the Bible concepts in those if you're like me and you like to kind of teach through literature. So this is a good one, Count Yourself Calm. Taking big feelings to a big God. And so this one was just, we're at that age where it's, we have a lot of emotions and, we need some help to calm down and also to understand like we can take these things to God. So this was just another just really good way for us to take negative behavior and try to get it under control, but also kind of bringing in that biblical concepts into it. Okay, so this is a series. This is the Good News for Little Hearts, and they have a bunch of these. So I did get these off of Thrift Books. This one lost its dust jacket, but this is Gus loses his grip. And so this is a story where obviously taste and see that the Lord is good. Oh, the joys of those who take refuge in it. So it's obviously him being greedy and wanting everything. And then this one is Jack's tail twitches when you are angry. So we have read this one, but we haven't read this one. And I will say they are very text heavy. I mean, like very. We read this one before nap time, and I was like, oh my goodness. So definitely a lot, but I will say that everywhere that they do have text, they use it well. So you can kind of see, you can pause it and look into it more. So we will definitely be investing and getting some more of those. Okay, so this is It Will Be Okay, Trusting God Through Fear and Change, Little Seed and Little Fox. And we have enjoyed this one. So I know Lisa writes a lot of books for adults, I think primarily Christian women. But and so I really enjoyed this one, though, talking about how the farmer was good, the farmer was kind, and the farmer was always watching over them, both the fox and the seed, through what they went through. And so it ties in that that's how God is with us, just like a farmer, he's always going to take good care of us. Trust his truth and tough things you face, confusing times in the messy hard place. God loves you, he's kind, remember this always in your heart and mind. So just as they learn to trust the farmer, we can learn to trust God. We do not need to fear. He has a wonderful plan. God loves you and he's kind. And in the end, it will really be okay. And so just kind of taking a story example of how if we go through fear, we go through changes, that just as they trusted the farmer, we can trust God. And so that was a wonderful story that we enjoyed. I have another one of these. This is Teaching Children to Use Their Words Wisely, Sam and the Sticky Situation, a book about whining. So the other one I have, I'll try to put a picture up here, and it is the one on lying. And so I believe it's in one of my children's rooms right now. I couldn't find it, but we like that one. So it's by Ginger Hubbard. So she, I believe she's the one who writes like, it probably says right here, yeah, Wise Words for Mom, Don't Make Me Count to 3. I can't believe you just said that. So I actually own all 3 of those. And so I do like her approach and stuff. And so this one is just like, whether you're a Christian or not, I mean, all kids need to know about whining. So sometimes the books help us to address these concepts. Okay, so this one came with our My Father's World curriculum last year, the preschool, and it's the first virtues, 12 stories for toddlers. They're very short, they're very sweet, and the illustrations are adorable. But they're going to talk about all of these virtues on the back. And just kind of launching and starting those, and they'll have a Bible verse in there, and then because they also have like a section at the end. Yeah, here, let me show you this. So like this is the one for thankfulness. So this is for parents to read. So you can pause it and kind of read through that and see how they do it. Now, like I said, this was given to us through My Father's World. It came with the curriculum, so I'm actually not sure if you can buy this separately. You might have to go to their website to buy it, but if I can find it, I will link it below. Okay, so then this is the children's book of virtues, and while I would say this is not technically a Christian book, we are getting ready to start this, and we're just going to go through this maybe like once a week, honestly. I would say some of these stories that I have flipped through and looked kind of included like a prayer. Not all of them, but some of them did, or included Lord, faith, and things like that. So it definitely is going after virtues, and I think whenever you're going to talk about that, you're going to start getting into some biblical concepts. Let me just open it up to the table of contents, and that way you can kind of see what they kind of are going to cover and the stories that they will have. So this is the courage and perseverance. And you can see it's a big book. I mean, it is big. And then the illustrations are wonderful. Perseverance. So these would be great to add if you homeschool and you want to add this to your morning basket. If you don't homeschool, this would be great to open at breakfast time, or if you're too busy in the morning, this would be great to add at dinner, or maybe after dinner. Dad could sit down, open this up and read with them, or you could do this right before You could do this right before bed, and that would be just a fun way to add that, and just kind of planting those seeds very little on. And this is the 365 manners kids should know. And there's games, activities, and other fun ways to help your children learn etiquette. And I can't remember who recommended this, but what I have learned, and it is like dated, is they say to read it. So like read the chapter and then work through what you can with your child. So I think it is definitely one that like you as a parent are supposed to read, but it is one that I would say you want to work and explain it with your children as well. And so this is one that we just are not there right now, but we are close. I would say definitely probably for my son's kindergarten year, what I will do is I will read a chapter, even a week, right? One a week or whatever. And I will read about it. So like January 4th is about apologizing. So, I mean, gosh, our world needs to learn about apologizing right now. Or January 3rd was please, thank you, and I'm sorry. And then, like I said, there's an activity. So, if you have children who, while they're eating breakfast and you want to just read this and then do the activity, you could. Or maybe read this the night before and then do the activity. And like I said, don't like put so much pressure on yourself and be like, oh my gosh, we have to do like one of these every day. I mean, it's a big book. No, you could spread this over a couple years of curriculum, or you can go through the index or the table of contents, and you could just bookmark which ones you want to go over. Being on time is probably not something necessarily a young child needs to know too much about. Borrowing might be a good idea to talk about, especially, if you get a lot of library books and stuff like that. Slamming doors, frightening others, books, your child's bedroom. May I have your attention, please? Let's see what else. Bullies, public playgrounds, neighborly manners. Interrupting would be a good one to talk about. If you forget someone's name, how do I address them? So you can see some of these are just like these are good things that all children should know eventually, but maybe some of these are more for older children or more younger. Placing a telephone call, receiving a phone call. So you can see how this would be something great to invest in, especially just for your homeschool journey. So it's a big chapter book, but I think it's going to cover a lot of manners and virtues that as Christian parents, and honestly, even if you're not a Christian, we need our children to have manners. So I think this is a great resource. So I will link this below as well. And that's it. So like I said, it's a ton of books. It's a lot of resources. And this is not something where you need to go out and get this all at once. And I can guarantee that I'm going to find more, whether at the library, at thrift stores, whether it's at thrift books, because I like to look on their sales and deals that I find. And I will be gathering more of these. And so I will definitely make more of these videos videos as I gain more things, whether that's what curriculum we're using, Bible curriculum for what age, or if I gain more resources. So stay tuned for those, and like and subscribe so you can stay up to date on when those videos come out. And I'll catch you later. Bye.